And a very good morning to you. Welcome along this Tuesday morning to OTB AM. As ever, if you want to get involved, you can just leave a comment for us underneath whatever live feed you're watching this on. We're on youtube.com/offtheball, facebook.com/offtheball, and you can also get us on Twitter @offtheballam. Keith Andrews, good morning to you.
Morning, Jay. How are we?
Is this your normal get-up time? Are you
No. Well, you can't burn the candles at both then, can you?
Oh, come on. You're not burning the candle at the other end, are you?
No, not like that candle, but in terms of doing games and all the rest
Your
of it,
body's a
travelling
temple,
back
you're a healthy
and
man these
coming
days.
back. Oh, I like me sleep.
Yeah. I figure that you're like up at 5 doing yoga, you know.
I'm not actually that engrossed in fitness, and I just look after what I eat, and when I can do a bit of training or golf is my priority anyway.
Yeah. What are you playing off at the minute?
Is this going out? Yeah, it is. There's Dave McIntyre in this because I'm going to be playing with him later. I'm off 16.
All right, that's good. So you're losing shots already. We should just point out that you only took it up when you retired. Normally,
nearly 2 years ago.
Normally, professional footballers are semi-professional golfers during their...
No, I wasn't, to be fair.
Why not? Why did you not? Did you think...
I had a little dabble when I was like mid-20s, and I just seemed to get injured. And I was a bit superstitious, so I was like...
Playing golf? You got injured playing golf?
Not actually playing golf,
Okay,
but I injured during the time when I was playing a few rounds of golf, and I just thought, maybe this is throwing me out of sync, or I'm not quite sure, so I just put it on the back burner. Because
Gordon Strachan did an interview with, I think it was Graham Hunter's big interview, and he was like, I didn't play golf when I was professional. I thought, going out and standing on your feet. I'm like, I had to rest. And yet you hear of Kenny Dalglish basically playing off scratch and also being one of the greatest players of all time. So I'm not sure it's that bad for you, is it?
No, I don't. Look, I think on a day off, on a Tuesday, Wednesday towards a Saturday, I think there's probably nothing better just to de-stress you and change the scenery, switch your mobile off. And I'm sure they all get buggies as well, so it's not that strenuous. It's not as if
probably have a caddy.
I use it. Yeah, exactly. Like now I carry my bag to get a bit of exercise in, so it's a little bit different.
You're not like Nathan then at Adair Manor with his caddy.
How do we not get that invite?
I don't know. We're going to have to work on that. Right, let's bring you through the newspapers this morning, and I'll tell you what's coming up on the show.
OTB AM.
In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.
We are going to be talking about the Liverpool situation a little bit later on. Obviously, a lot of talk about the safety of the fans, and we'll also talk a bit about the game as well. That's with Tony Evans just after 8. So if you've got anything Liverpool related that you'd like to get off your chest, now would be a good time to get involved with us on that one. And loads more to bring you through as well. So may as well start with the newspaper. It's going to start with the Irish Independent this morning, and the news came through yesterday that Connacht are also in the hunt for a new coach. Thanks very much. They pulled the plug on the Keane regime. A few interesting nuggets here from Rory O'Connor on this. Keane had been a somewhat controversial figure during his stint, commenting frequently about the limitations of a squad that still contains plenty of figures from the 2016 league-winning campaign. Those utterances, in which the coach questioned his team's skills and character, did not go down well in the dressing room. Coach comes in and says, character's not great, skills aren't great. How's that going to go down in the dressing room?
Well, not too well.
Somebody likened it to Brian Clough at Leeds. Take your medals and throw them in the effing bin.
Well, we all know why that ended, don't we?
Yeah.
So not.
Didn't work. Didn't work for Kieran Keane either, apparently. In the aftermath of situations like this, when somebody's out, information comes out, and you always have to be a little bit wary. You definitely kind of need to treat them with a bit of distance and kind of see, okay, so the manager is gone and there's been a reason for that. But, we heard that he was big on details for the big games, but less so on the smaller games. And we saw at the weekend, obviously, they killed Leinster. They did well in a couple of the other big games against the Irish provinces, but they lost back-to-back against Zebre, which, they're the worst team in Europe, so you can't be doing that. You always have sympathy for a coach who gets kicked out after one season, but sometimes if the fit is wrong...
He had big boots to fill, though, didn't he? In terms of going in there, but... Well, I've had managers with the opposite way, funny enough, in terms of would put all their focus into the lesser teams. And then I actually said this to Sean Dyche last week when I was over in Burnley, in terms of where he is at his best, I think, is that he makes his players feel invincible. So even when they're going and playing the big teams, so we've seen it this year, their record against the top teams has been very, very good.
Yeah.
When I've had certain managers, when you've played against the top teams, going into the game, you're thinking, my manager doesn't even believe
we're going to
get a
this.
result out of this.
That doesn't help, does it? Like I can see a part of, if you're a manager and you've got a limited amount of time, is that you're going to focus on the games you can win, and the games you can't win, you're kind of going, look, this is just a free shot, go out and enjoy yourselves. But that obviously transmits itself to the players.
Yeah, players pick up on detail very, very quickly. So if the preparations for certain games are different in any way, then you're thinking, well, why?
Yeah.
Why are we preparing different for Man United than we did for Bolton?
Yeah.
You know, and players kind of soak that up, and
It'd be nice if we could actually win
maybe
both
gives
these
you an
games.
excuse collectively. But there's nothing worse than going out on a football pitch or any pitch, any sport, any environment where you're thinking your coach doesn't really believe you can do something today.
Yeah, and like I can see why some coaches come in and challenge a group and say, come on, you guys need to improve, but like the dressing rooms have changed to the point where you can't just come in and insult people anymore.
No, far from it. And I think this is, because I've done my coaching licenses, badges, different in different sports obviously, but it's one aspect that they don't really teach you about. And some of the best managers I've had, that's been part of their makeup and part of the reason they've had a lot of success is because how they can manage a group of grown men to buy into something. Whereas, all right, tactically, the best in the world, Pep Guardiola's, they're brilliant the way they see things, but in the main, I don't think there's a hell of a lot of difference tactically between the vast majority of managers.
Yeah.
Because once you do all the courses, once you watch 1,000 games or you're part of 1,000 games, you see everything, don't you?
You're supposed to be able to, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. But in terms of managing a group, it's a different skill set, isn't it?
Totally. Let's just play you this. It's Andy Dunn speaking last night on the radio about Kieran Keane.
When a guy gets the boot effectively so soon into a 3-year contract, I would have thought the playing staff and key senior personnel would have been consulted, I'd imagine. And in the absence of a huge defence, there's usually a tough decision made early on. I note the cynic in me notes that Willie Ruan described him as the perfect fit last year going into a 3-year contract.
Yeah.
But obviously most people who are going to make those decisions are going to describe their first choice as a perfect fit. But I think it's become apparent. I think the results do matter as well. I think they're kind of slightly glossing over while results aren't the most important thing. I think ultimately what he was trying to achieve on the field, he wasn't able to get that message across clearly to the playing group.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Your initial reaction when somebody gets taken out after a year is like, oh, that's not enough time. But actually, it's probably the right decision if the fit is wrong. It's like, you know.
Yeah, from the outside it looks harsh, doesn't it? Because we're all thinking, okay, he's got his 3-year deal. But if internally players, the hierarchy, are seeing something this isn't progressing, this is antagonistic, this isn't happening for whatever reason.
Yeah.
What's the point in persevering?
No, it's true. If the wrong person is in the wrong job, you're just wasting another year. Can we just get the Indo back up there? There's 2 other stories we just need to talk briefly about here. One of them is obviously the Rovers celebrations last night from a 3-0 win against Cork. And again, this is the opposite side of the thing, like where clubs could easily have sacked somebody like Stephen Bradley for the run that they're on and, you know, the money and the investment that they've made. But ultimately, if you are going to put your faith in a young manager, then you have to accept that the learning curve is really steep and there's going to be a long, tricky period. And you hope at the end of that, you come out with a manager who then has the experience to deal with situations like 5-game streak with no wins.
Yeah, he's had a tough few weeks, Stephen Bradley, the games, and it's a different type of model. And because they've been quite vocal about the way they're going and trying to trim the wage bill, trying to go and focus on the youth side of things, and I think that's very much in place at Shamrock Rovers. There's obviously going to be ups and downs.
Yeah.
I think it was 6 without a win, wasn't it, going into this game? So that's a big, big win. But you're right, in terms of a long-term project, they've no guarantees to be in those European places at the end of this season. And if they don't finish in that top 4, does that mean he should be sacked? So we're talking about Connacht Rugby in terms of internally what's going on. Is the development happening underneath that? Well, at Shamrock Rovers, I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
I don't know that, but I would bet my bottom dollar internally things are going in the right direction.
And if they feel he's the right person for the job but the results aren't going, then you have to have patience. Whereas with Connacht, they felt that they had the wrong person in the job and that they weren't going to fix things. So like, unless Rovers feel the same way that the hierarchy in Connacht / the IRFU did, then you can see why they would make the decision. But like, rather than do that, I think you've got to stick with them. And then the only other story there on the back of the Indo is IRFU still hoping to deliver Carberry to Ulster's McFarland. So obviously Ulster named their new coach yesterday. Forced into it a bit prematurely, it seems. Des Berry at the Herald was saying that he thought it was going to be Dan McFarland, and then lo and behold, 3 hours later, Ulster were announcing Dan McFarland as their new head coach. Scotland were saying, yeah, he can join in January, and Ulster and a couple of other people were like, no, he's going to be here for the start of the season. So a few details still in the wash in that one, and I presume he's going to be there at the start of the season, or at least for pre-season. But apparently Joe Schmidt was sitting down with Joey Carberry yesterday to convince him that maybe starting at number 10 for Ulster was right for his future.
He needs to go and get playing, doesn't he? Like, it's simple as that, because he's, I wouldn't know him that well, but he's not going to develop playing second fiddle to Johnny Sexton. So if there's some kind of manoeuvring, he's got to go and play, isn't he?
I think that they could probably play a load of games at Leinster.
Well, is there enough?
I think it's probably just about the right amount. And also, it seems like Leinster have one of the best coaching tickets in the world at the moment, where Stuart Lancaster is free to be a head coach and do all the coaching, and is clearly getting the best out of a very talented bunch. So if you think of the team that Lancaster's had, like 3 first-choice back rowers disappear from selection. Josh van der Fleer, who was like, nailed on, going to be Ireland's player of the year, out for the season. Sean O'Brien, best form of his life after the Lions, out for the season, and Jamie Heaslip retired. But the back row hasn't missed a beat. Jack Conan out, unavailable. Geordie Murphy slots in. And they even managed to get Scott Fardy back to being a back row again, despite the fact that they thought he was a second row. So the level of coaching is insanely good. And
but ultimately you need game time then to prove that and to bring that on a notch, because you can do all you want in training and in the gym and develop and your clips with the analysts, whatever it is. But then you need to go and test yourself in that competitive environment. And when it comes to the crunch, obviously Johnny Sexton's going to be the call.
He will, yeah. I mean, Sexton plays very few games for Leinster compared to some of the other positions, and some of the other players. Like the IRFU definitely keep him in kid gloves comparatively. So there would be a lot of league games, but there's also every game that they rest Rob Kearney, because Leinster see Carberry as a 15.
Do they?
Yeah, so that they want ultimately to have a 10 and a 15 who are game breakers and who are playmakers. The way that New Zealand have, they're thinking, what's the very best team that we can ever be? And you have 2 players in key positions, 10 and 15, who are into the latter stages of their careers, and they're like, well, we've had this kid. His dad works for Leinster, like has been a Leinster development coach for ages. Yeah, like I don't know.
It's a tricky position for him, isn't it?
Yeah, because what do you do when Joe Schmidt says, I want you to go?
I know, it's very, very
Are you going to
tricky.
give up on your World Cup dreams? Because, like, I'm sure it's not like I'm sure there's no intentional, well, if you don't go, don't try me here. But, like, I don't know how explicit that is. But certainly you would feel, okay, I'm kind of getting forced into this.
It's uneasy. It's not
what
do I
do?
It's not a nice scenario for him to be in, is it?
No, I wouldn't fancy it. But like, I don't know. I just hope they do the right thing by him. Right, let's move on to the Examiner next. So the launches are starting to happen, which means the photo calls are starting to happen properly, and it's a couple of wolfhounds. Are they Irish wolfhounds, or are they a cross between a red setter and a wolfhound? You know your dogs.
Does it look? I think it's wolfhound, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, they look like wolfhounds. Yeah. The start of summer and championship fills the horizon. May Day. It is May Day. Oh, yeah. Well, why are we working today? I thought it was supposed to be a bank holiday. Workers of the world unite. Come on. Who brought us in today? It's Tommy. Yeah. Yeah. So you're a dog man, are you?
I am a dog man. Yeah.
What do you have?
I have a cockapoo.
What are they like?
Why did you stutter?
A cockapoo. They're good swimmers, apparently, are they?
He wouldn't be a great swimmer.
No.
He'd be a bit like me, being an adequate swimmer.
Yeah, okay. You'd float, maybe.
I have asthma, so they're crossbred for people with allergies.
Okay, right.
So we kind of stumbled upon them at a friend's house about 6 years ago. And I was like,
the first dog you didn't kind of...
Yeah, I went into their house, didn't have my inhaler, but it was okay. It didn't come out with like a rash.
Nice.
So it was, yeah. So.
Do you always have bad asthma?
Only certain things kind of get it going. Wind, funny enough, if it's really windy, and animal hair, so horses, rabbits.
And so did it have an impact when you were playing?
When I was younger, a little bit, yeah, certain games. Not bad. I never had bad asthma. I've never been hospitalised. It was just always kept under tabs with the usual inhalers.
Nowadays, you'd use it as an excuse to like, I've got a TUE. Thanks very much. Supercharged.
No, I'm not that way inclined.
But your doctor would be here. Look, you just need this for your asthma. Do you know what I mean?
Would it benefit my golf?
Oh, but
I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I can beat Dave McIntyre anyway.
Definitely wouldn't benefit your golf. It'll make you a little bit twitchy.
Yeah, no, I would leave that.
Oh, there's Buster on screen. There you go.
Oh my God.
Oh, that is cute.
There's Buster.
And he didn't even shit on the floor. Very well trained.
He's well behaved. He's a house dog.
Yeah, a house dog, whatever. Not an office dog. He's like, oh, this looks not like my house at all. Yeah, so Donald O'Grady is saying that the April close down has been a disaster for the promotion of hurling. And then the Jurgen Klopp story is coming up. We'll talk a bit more with Tony Evans about this in about 20 minutes' time, but like, it's not good, right? It's in all the newspapers, and everybody's wondering, it's the week of the biggest game of your career at Liverpool. Let's stress at Liverpool.
Yeah.
And suddenly your most trusted lieutenant, and it looked like best buddy for 20 years, is no longer part of your coaching team. What are the players thinking?
Worried. Maybe they know something we don't know. So when it broke, first thing I think was personal reasons, family, health. I didn't even think until probably last night, has something gone on between them?
Yeah.
That's meant they've had to go and go, look, we need this little break to just settle things down. As a player, they may well have been told something. If it is family related and if it is along those lines, then
everybody's fine.
I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fine. Look, the role of an assistant manager, and I think you've seen it with Buvac, with Klopp, in terms of calming him down, good cop, bad cop,
yeah.
You know, fire ice, whatever way you want to put it. They're supposed to complement each other. And I've no doubts that they do complement each other. I think it's a little bit derogatory towards Klopp, the way they're coming out with it. Well, he's the brains behind the operation.
That was his nickname. But that doesn't necessarily mean he was actually the brains.
Exactly.
Sometimes nicknames are just nicknames.
A little bit misleading, but it's not good. It really isn't good in terms of on the eve of the Champions League semi-final, just to change that whole dynamic and create a little bit of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And even for Klopp. So if we go on to tomorrow night, and if Roma get a goal, an early goal, there's just that assurance.
He looks around and his buddy's sitting
where's
there.
your mate?
Yeah.
And it's not just an assistant that you've been working with. 17 years they've been together, and that's before they played together as well at Mines.
Players are also a little bit superstitious, as you talked about earlier, giving up playing golf. Like, if there are any players in the dressing room who had like a proper personal relationship with him, they come in from half time tomorrow and normally they would do something or chat to him and he's gone. It's like, this isn't right.
Klopp's not the type of manager, is he, that you can't approach, I'd imagine, as a player. So certain managers, you always tend to go to the coaching staff, the coach, the assistant manager, fitness coach as well.
To get stuff done.
Yeah, and you're right. There is an element of superstition in a lot of players. So whether that's pre-match warm-up where they do a certain drill with Buvac, it's just not what they need right now. And especially if they go a goal down in the opening 10, 15 minutes.
Which, let's face it, they probably will.
Well, it's probably not going to go exactly to plan. Look, they're going to go through, in my opinion, probably relatively easily. But you do feel there's going to be a little bit of a scare at some stage.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back to that a good bit later on. So let's go back to the Irish Times. I skipped this one, sorry about that. Here it is on the Irish Times. We don't have the Irish Times on screen, so here you go. There's a bunch of different stories here. They are obviously also leading with tonight's game, which is the Bayern-Real Madrid game. Heinkes calls for Bayern efficiency. I mean, you know.
What else do you expect?
Like, is he playing with us? Is he like subverting our expectations for... so Liverpool assistant Buvac steps down for the season. There is a sense that they've had rows in the past and they've patched it up and it might just be a temporary thing as opposed to for good. And then O'Neill says Christie case shows racism still an issue for the game. This is at an event yesterday for Show Racism the Red Card. Colin Bell, the Ireland women's manager, O'Neill and Catherine Zappone, the Minister for Children, were at St Aidan's in Dublin yesterday. And it was the first opportunity anybody had to talk to Martin O'Neill about the Cyrus Christie situation. And the Cyrus Christie situation probably we should have made a much bigger deal out of it, and yet you kind of don't want to make too much of a big deal out of it because you hope that it's just 2 or 3 people, and by giving them attention for the stuff that they're doing, they're actually winning. And it's hard to kind of find the balance, but then you realise this is happening so much that like the re-emergence of racism as something that people are comfortable showing in public has happened almost overnight and imperceptibly. I would say primarily because Trump and Brexit have allowed it to come out when it was clearly there all the time. But what's happened to Cyrus Christie is absolutely disgusting. And like, it makes no sense.
Nonsensical, it really is. And I have to be honest, I'd heard the headlines and I'd seen little snippets, and obviously it's been flagged up today more so because Martin's obviously been asked about it and commented on it. Because I'm not on social media, the first time I seen the actual tweets was this morning when I came in here. I couldn't believe what I seen. And to have to go through that in this day and age is just sickening, absolutely sickening. And he's had to deal with it before. There's been this level of abuse directed at Cyrus Christie before, which, look, it's something that doesn't sit well with me, and it's disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
You would hope that the cops in England are on it, and you would hope that Twitter are on it properly, but like he's calling Twitter out as well, and you know, it's just
how well do they marshal things like that, and what are the repercussions? Do you know?
There might be an account suspended eventually.
Suspended, that's it. Not as in good luck, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, some of them pardon me, some of them do end up getting closed down, but ultimately you should go to prison for that kind of stuff. Like, it's at that level where you kind of think, well, so I don't know. You hope that sooner rather than later it gets dealt with, but like, it must have an impact on Cyrus Christie, and fair play to him for actually standing up, and like the fact that he decided to draw attention to it probably means that actually we should have done more about it, and we should publicly do more to support it, because if somebody is making that effort, you hope that they don't feel like they're being left alone. So look, Cyrus Christie's a bit of a hero, and
yeah, very much so.
Hopefully something good comes out of this. So the Times of Ireland, we have a screen grab of their lead stories for you on the website this morning. Ulster McFarland is new coach. Johan van Grant says they aim to be the best team in the world. Pro 14 set for a windfall after a fresh TV deal. This is the news that the Pro 14 is going to double its money from the new TV rights deal. Most of it coming from Air and coming from Premier Sports in the UK. So a big deal for Pro 14, hopefully meaning that there'll be some more superstars coming to this part of the world. And then Keane sacked by Connacht after 1 year. Kieran Keane is out at the sports ground. So, what have you got for us?
Okay, we'll kick off with the Herald. So, again, it's about Klopp, finish it off, make sure we get the job done. And another big one is Rangers, the worst side ever. So, Martin O'Neill is talking a little bit about Steven Gerrard and whether he's going to take that job. And we all seen the Old Firm on Sunday. Oh, I had it on in the background. I wasn't particularly watching it, which says a lot about
it, doesn't it?
Old Firms, because you would have been glued into it years ago, wouldn't you? Whereas you half expected some kind of a result like that, 3-4, you know? And it's just they're so far behind the Rangers.
He's joking a bit when he says that. It's
like, he is tongue in cheek, but
he's not really either. He's like enjoying every second of it.
You're going to take that job.
Sticking the
I'm
knife
a bit torn on the whole Steven Gerrard. You know, where he should go, if he should go, is it now? I've kind of gone to and fro over the last couple of days. I just think it's not the easy option. I think I would prefer him to take a job like that than a championship job, which we've seen 3, 6, 9 months, unless it's right, you're out.
Yeah.
Time and time again, we've seen managers like that.
There are some good jobs in the championship though. Like the Wolves job at the right time would have been one of the dream jobs. It turns out somebody had to take a bit of a risk.
Yeah, but just because, look, I know they're probably a little bit more in terms of the finances that have been spent, but there's teams that have spent and spent and spent in that championship.
And got nowhere.
Yeah, and managers have gone, and you're left with that group of players that manager signed. Yeah. Derby being a prime example. 3-4 managers in the last 3-4 years, and you're left with this group of 25-30 players on fortunes for championship level. They're not going to leave, there's no room to manoeuvre. So I just think in terms of managing a big club, it will be a big club, imprinting your style and showing us what you would be about as a manager. But of course, there comes an element of risk, because unless he gets a lot closer to Celtic, then it's probably going to be deemed as failure.
Yeah.
So it's a big risk on his part, because ultimately, if he continues on the path he's on at the moment, 18s, maybe 23s, learning the academy, maybe goes and has a year being an assistant manager for England, you know, to just to branch out a little bit, see a different part of the game,
Work with grown-ups.
yeah,
Yeah.
then naturally you would feel he might get a bit of successor to Jurgen Klopp, but maybe he's just getting a little bit of itchy feet.
Yeah, like if I was Liverpool, I would say, no way, you cannot be the successor to Jurgen Klopp unless you've gone off and managed successfully in Germany, or if you've gone and done something that's like, ooh, we understand you now are plugged into European football. Like, what's your scouting network? What scouts do you trust?
Exactly.
How do you trust them? Like, what are the traits that you look for in a scout over a period of time to deliver a certain type of player to you that fits your system? And what is your system, by the way? How do you decide that? Because we had Daniel Harris on yesterday, and he made the point that, like, Steven Gerrard's brilliance was a force of personality. It wasn't a tactical genius. He wasn't like, he made the comparison with Scholes, where Ferdinand said Scholes' passes told you where to go.
Yeah.
With Steven Gerrard, it was, I'm going to do this.
He's right at the Rovers, wasn't he?
Yeah. Not necessarily a transferable skill to management.
Yeah.
You can't slap them on the arse and go, off you go there and win the game.
I said this to you earlier, and I've mentioned this before, about when I was at MK Dons, and I think I just left, and there was a little bit of talk of Ryan Giggs taking over. There's been talk of Steven Gerrard actually as well. And my instant feeling on that is, what does Steven Gerrard and Ryan Giggs know about how a League One player's mind works? You know, in terms of days off, family problems, tactically being able to take that thing on board. And like what you were saying about Steven Gerrard, some of the top players, I'm not saying all, they cannot comprehend when a player can't do something. So when a keep ball session breaks down, or they're trying to get some kind of information across, you got to revisit it. There's a reason why players play at certain levels. It's the consistency that you're able to reproduce.
Yeah.
That, like golf, I can hit an unbelievable shot. I can't do it 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
You know, and that's similar to Championship, League One. That's the issue. And then how do you manage that group? And you will have a similar issue going to Rangers, because that squad is nowhere near it.
Yeah.
Nowhere near it.
Like, which always makes me look at the successful managers at the moment and how so few of them were really world-class players. Like, how so few of them were really, really world-class players. Obviously, like, Guardiola was a good player in an amazing team.
Yeah.
And maybe he was underrated as a player. I don't know. Conte was one of those players who obviously had a brilliant career. But the Mourinhos, the Wengers, those players who kind of had okay careers were definitely able at some stage in their career to find players who weren't already world class and turn them into much better. Now, obviously, Mourinho seems to have lost that ability, like, and can only shop in the best, most expensive shops in the world. I don't know, just listening to Dyche the other day, right? You got the sense that, like, I don't think Sean Dyche would be intimidated working with any player, but actually can also spot value and can bring players through and can communicate with them in a way that goes, like, look, this team that we're playing today, they're just another team.
Yeah, on a humane level. But I would be interested to see how Pep dealt with a League One team. I do think he'd improved them, but I just wonder how frustrated he would get. You know, who was I speaking to? I was speaking to Lee Carsley actually about playing. He was coaching the 21s at the time, and from when he went from Birmingham, he was just like, the level that he was dealing with in terms of the player's ability was phenomenal. You're constantly testing yourself in terms of, I need to test them.
Yeah.
I need to come up with things to test them. Whereas it would be the other way around. If Guardiola left and went to an average Premier League team where, like, he took over a team that were very, very direct, for instance, how would he sacrifice his philosophy, or would he think, no, I'm persevering with the way I want to play? But you can imagine just pulling his very little stubbly hair out, couldn't you?
Yeah, he would persevere, wouldn't he?
I think so, yeah, because that's him.
And I presume there are players at that level who can do what he wants. Like, there's a Wes there that you just need to find.
Tap into.
Yeah.
Unearth it.
I want to play you this video. It's from last night. Pat Nevin was in the back page in Fitzborough last night. Here he is talking about the possibility of Steven Gerrard becoming Rangers manager. So it's his thoughts on the same issue that we've just been talking about there.
What do you think? Personally, think he should take it? Do you think he will take it? all that I'm hearing about Steven Gerrard is that he is likely to take this job at Rangers, and he has been offered it by Rangers. I'm actually quite amazed that he's going to take it. Maybe because I've got more of a foot in. I live in Scotland still, and I see the Scottish game quite a lot, and I know what the pressure's like up there for the manager of Celtic or Rangers if you're not in first place. Now, if you can walk into management as a former player in your first job, and it can work. I mean, I played against Kenny Douglas first year as Liverpool manager, player manager. He wins the league and he scores the winning goal. And he did it. He did it at Chelsea, and I was playing down that day. It was very upsetting. Anyway, but it can work, and we know Souness did a very good job up at Rangers. It always seems to involve Liverpool people, this, and that's absolutely fine as well. But at that time, they had more money than everyone else. He could go and get the best of the English players to come up and buy them and bring them up there. You look at when it works the other way, when John Barnes went up to Celtic and everything wasn't in place. Now, everybody, a lot of Celtic, I'm sure there's the odd Celtic fan in here tonight, many Celtic fans listening tonight. And the story is John Barnes had an absolute stinker. Have a wee look at that guy's record. It's actually perfectly good. In one real terrible game against Inverness Cali Thistle, but he's now considered a complete and utter nightmare of a Celtic manager. In the history of Celtic managers, he's got the 4th best record of wins percentage in the history of Celtic managers, and they've had a few good managers, I can tell you. So if you make, the simple thing is, if you make a mistake up there, even if you're Stevie G and you go to Rangers and it goes wrong, and by the way, everything's not perfect in the background at that club, they are miles and miles and miles behind Celtic. You could have your fledgling career absolutely chopped off. And the other night there on Match of the Day, you may have heard it was suggested by Alan Shearer that it's a no-brainer. Believe me, it's a brainer. You need to think about this. You seriously need to think about this.
That's a very good point. I hadn't thought of the John Barnes example. Everybody goes, it's win-win, right? Go up there, and if it doesn't work, everybody goes, sure, it wasn't going to work anyway. But actually, I mean,
that was a different era as well, wasn't it? We just spoke about the Old Firm on Sunday. There's so much making up to do. I have to be honest, I am torn on it. I'm not categorically in one camp or the other.
Yeah.
I am a little bit, and I'm sure he's a bit like that.
No doubt. Also, you got to live in Glasgow. No thanks. What's next?
The Sun. We have got, what have we got? Terry McDermott is selling his 3 European Cup medals, and also Sunderland, new manager, new takeover, drastically needed. Ellis Short, been in charge 9 years, wasted so much money at that place. Kevin Phillips getting linked with that job. It'd be interesting to see who gets it, because that's, I think you were chatting there, weren't you, about?
I think that's a good job now.
Yeah, well,
if
it's levelled out, and
there's no debt anymore. He's wiped out the debt, so you can literally walk in and sack Jack Rodwell and say, okay,
You can't.
You can now, because you can pay up, you can go into debt to get rid of Jack Rodwell and go, anybody else, off you go, new day, new dawn. We've gone into debt to get rid of those bad players, but it's a tiny little bit of debt, and they'll sell enough season tickets. If you come in and go, Man City, we are the new Man City, and we need you the way the Man City fans showed up in 25,000, and they romped home that year, but we can only do it if we all get together.
It's shocking to see them the way they've gone. I done the first game of last season when they played Derby, and it finished 1-1, but before the game, I said I wasn't quite sure whether their troubles had levelled out. Simon Grayson had took over. The recruitment in the summer was shocking. So I'm looking at him thinking, I think consolidation will be it. But Sunderland fans, no.
Straight back up.
Yeah. Well,
straight
that didn't quite work out, did it? The Mirror, again, brain drain, talking again about Buvac's departure. And again, O'Neill making the quotes about Steven Gerrard joining the worst Rangers team. No, sorry, that's the Star, is it?
Yeah, that's the Star.
On to the Mirror, last one. Time's up for the Dubs. Hart believes this is the year the All-Ireland Kings will be beaten in the Championship. Not so sure about that, Mickey. And Klopp, again, covering all the back pages.
It passed a little bit without comment, but so Mickey Hart gave an interview to Keith Duggan early on in the year in the Irish Times, and he talked about Conor Callan scores a goal. I don't know if you remember the game now at this point, but it's very early on in the match. Conor Callaghan runs straight through the Tyrone defence, slaloms through and scores a goal, and Tyrone barely register a score in that first half and get absolutely annihilated by the Dubs. But in the interview, he says, I can't remember if it was like O'Callaghan was a bad agent or something, because basically O'Callaghan's man, even though he's the forward, the defender who was marking him had gone forward. And instead of tracking back to be like a defensive automaton, O'Callaghan waited in the forward line.
Yeah, so he cheats.
And got the ball.
Yeah.
And scored a goal. Mickey's like, wow, can't be doing that. It's like...
As in, Conor Callaghan can't be doing that?
Yeah.
But that's Dublin having trust, or there's obviously a licence there where we only want you to go so far back.
And understanding that maybe if you want to win games, you need forwards. Yeah. So Tyrone got wiped out in that one. It'll be interesting to see what lessons they've learned from last year. But yeah, I can't see... I'd be interested to see Tyrone play Dublin again this year and see what happens.
Well, Dublin will win.
I would predict the same. And yeah, and for the good of football, that might not be the worst thing. Right, we've got some more Ray Houghton coming for you in just a minute. 2 quick texts for you. Lads, Sexton's not going to play for Ireland after the World Cup, I'd say, so hang tight, Joey. There'll be lots of time for you, says James Gill. I think Johnny Sexton could play rugby until he's 40. He's like,
how old is he now? 31?
I think he might be 33. I'll do a quick Google there. You chat amongst yourself for a second. Sexton
I can't say that. I'm with you. I can't say that. He's primed and gets looked after. Well, you've already mentioned the way they look after him. Leinster, that relationship with the IRFU.
He's 32. He'll be 33 in July.
But that's why, because Carbery's obviously, he's the long-term successor, obviously. But when you're in that position, I go back to when I was at Wolves, right? I was 20 at the time. I was captain of Wolves, and then they signed Paul Ince, Colin Cameron and Alex Ray. And I was like, oh dear. I nearly said something else there. And then you're thinking, all right, but they're thinking long-term, 20-year-old, blah, blah, but I just lost faith with it because I wasn't getting enough game time.
Yeah.
And you spoke about the coaching staff at Leinster. We didn't have that at Wolves.
Yeah. In retrospect, could you have stayed and fought for your place? That would have been the right thing to do.
I did stay they kept me under contract for another 3-4 years.
Oh, right, so you did stay too long.
Yeah, and they sucked the life out of me.
So the right thing to do for you would have been to get out.
Well, I tried, but because I was under contract, I signed a long-term contract. It was in comparison to those players and bigger players, I was on relative peanuts. So it was a very difficult period.
They just saw you at that point as depth, as opposed to actually...
third, fourth choice, in and around it, whereas Carbery's obviously well past that.
Yeah.
But it's still like it's frustrating for him.
It must be. I do think that they've explained to him that they view him as somebody who is world class and who they're going to work into the team. And because of the way players get rested, so 1 week Carbery or 1 week Carney will get rested and 1 week Sexton will get rested and he'll play.
Is he as good as a 15?
Well, Leinster see him as like potentially a game-changing 15 from an Ireland perspective, like better than anybody we've ever had play there before, like with an attacking ability and a second player who can run the game. So all of a sudden, instead of having one out half, you've got effectively 2 out halves whenever the ball is in your possession. We haven't seen enough of him there because he gets injured too. Like he's had a couple of injuries this year for the first time too. So, I don't know. It's a really tricky situation.
It is, isn't it?
It's not nice.
No.
Right, OTB AM is brought to you this morning with Air, the home of Air Sport. Get amazing live sporting content free with Air Broadband. Big announcement coming from them in the next couple of days, apparently, about the Pro 14. That's all over the newspapers today, so you can expect that one to come through. Let's play you one quick video from last night as well. Here is some more Ray Houghton.
I'm not so big on Henderson. I think he does an okay job. Well, I think if you actually looked at his stats, and I'm not a great lover of stats, but if you're just looking,
you've quoted a few stats tonight. Though.
Well, yeah, okay, but you know, in footballing terms, on the pitch, you can say, he's got 95% pass rate in one thing and another. But when you're a midfield player, in my opinion, you should be looking to play the ball that can open up a team. And if you look at his stats for forward passes, they'll be very low because his percentage-wise isn't great. Sideways and backwards, in continuity, little tippy-tappy balls, he's fine. But when he's playing or trying to hit that ball that can open up a defence, if you look at his stats, it'll be very low. Whereas Milner, in the big games this season, went away to Porto when they won 5-0, outstanding. Man City, home and away, outstanding. the other evening. I thought he was the driving force in midfield, picks up some great positions, particularly when Oxlade-Chamberlain went off. He was the one that we've Ronaldo got a little bit further ahead and exposed them a little bit. So I think he's been absolutely brilliant for Liverpool in recent weeks. Henderson does a good job, a very good job. I'm just saying that, you know, in that position, I've played with a lot of players, and your first thought should be forward. His first thought's backwards and square. So it's safety football rather than trying to open up the opposition. That's the only reason why I'd say Milner, I would highlight a bit more, because he'll play that. He'll get into areas to try and affect the game in that final third, and I think he's been one of Liverpool's mainstay players of late. He's been sensational in the big games.
Yeah, Milner finally getting the love that he deserves from Ray Houghton. We'll get Keith's thought on that in a moment, but first we're going to say good morning to Tony Evans, who's on his way to Rome for the second leg of Roma against Liverpool. And before we actually get into some of the surrounding narratives ahead of the match, we might start with the big news over the last 24 hours, Tony, and that is of course the news that Jurgen Klopp has lost his assistant coach, at least for the rest of the season, but potentially, we don't know, for forever. How important is this, and why has it happened in the build up to this game, and what are you hearing about it?
Well, it's a very strange time for this to happen, because they've been so close for so long, and you know, he's been at such an important role in Klopp's career. The club are saying that it's for personal reasons, and then he might be back before, you know, at some point next season. But I can't see it. I think it sounds like they're trying to essentially smooth it over at a difficult time of the season. I'd be very surprised if he comes back. And it does leave Klopp with a quandary. You know, this is a man he referred to as the brain. And, well, Liverpool going to do without the brain?
Yeah, we have seen what happens to lobotomised teams in the past. What was the role? Like, what was the relationship actually like, and how important was that role in just reining Klopp in from his worst excesses, and also perhaps in inspiring him to his greatest deeds?
Well, I think it was a very important role. I mean, you know, he was a great sounding board for Klopp. He was good with tactics, and he was good in training. I mean, everyone's always spoken of him as being really integral, and it'll mean a revamp of the training, you know, staff. They have been getting increasingly more distant over the past few weeks. So obviously there's been a growing breach. But yeah, I think it will present a problem for the manager going forward.
The timing is also absolutely... it's so weird for this to happen in the build-up to the biggest game of the season. So obviously it had reached some kind of critical breaking point.
Yeah, it suggests that it's really bad, because let's face it, this is Liverpool's biggest game since, I don't know, since, you know, 2007, Athens. So for it to happen now, it must have been something that they couldn't sweep under the carpet. They couldn't say, let's put things aside, let's move on, and let's at least get to the Champions League final, and then we can address these problems afterwards.
Yeah. Hopefully it's just a minor narrative in the aftermath, and then we can find out exactly what has happened, and hopefully they can patch it up at some point over the summer. Tony, you've been writing on ESPN about 1984 and a little bit about why Liverpool fans need to be careful in Rome. Can you talk to us a bit about that and what your own experience is?
I think it's the relationship between Liverpool and Roma has been really bad since 1984, when Liverpool ruined the biggest day in Roma's history. And we've been top of or near the top of the list of their enemies ever since. Back when they played them in 2000, 2001, there was trouble outside. There was, I think it was 21 stabbings overall. And what's thrown into the mix is that Rome is the only city in the world where football fans are regularly targeted and stabbed. I mean, they have a name for it. They call it punchicarte, and it's basically stabbing people in the buttocks. And they've elevated this to a cultural symbol. I mean, they think it's part of the Roman tradition, and it's actually cowardly actions dressed up as culture.
So what advice do you have for Liverpool fans, and what do you expect the Liverpool fans to be able to do to help protect themselves, and what advice are they getting at the moment?
Well, I wouldn't be going out in small groups. I wouldn't be wearing Liverpool shirts or scarves. I wouldn't be making loud noises or trying to colonise bars and putting up banners. I'd just be keeping my head down. Well, I will be keeping my head down because back in 1984, I saw what it was like when things get hostile outside the Stadio Olimpico. It's really hostile. I'd be just trying to keep a low profile. And one of the problems is you can't rely on the police. The police are almost, at times, like the armed wing of the ultras. And it sets up a very difficult situation. And to make it worse, there seems a bit of posturing has gone on in the last week when both sides are setting the others up to be the bad guys and to be the troublemakers. And I fear that tonight might be a difficult night in Rome and tomorrow again. So hopefully everyone will be safe, because we don't want to see a repeat of what happened last week.
Tony, this all feels so anachronistic and so weird that we're talking in advance of a game like this, and when the football has been so spectacular, that we're talking about stuff like happened in the 1980s. There was a sense that for whatever reason we'd managed to step beyond this. Why do you think we are back where we are now?
In terms of, I didn't quite catch all of that, I'm sorry.
Why do
you mean in terms of trouble outside ground?
Yeah, why has it made a comeback?
We've always been this way. I mean, especially in Rome. Rome hasn't changed. We just don't hear about it. It happens all the time. I don't think there's been any upsurge in hooliganism in England and the Premier League. I think people oversold what happened to the Man City bus and have turned it into something. It was really a storm in a teacup, and they've turned it into this big bout of hooliganism. It was a few daft dopes throwing empty cans and plastic bottles at the coach, and a few idiots throwing real bottles. I don't think we've seen any upsurge in it, but it's never gone away in Rome, and certainly the way Roma ultras target English clubs, and particularly Liverpool, it's something that's an ongoing situation, and UEFA need to act, because this happens on a weekly basis outside the Stadio Olimpico.
Yeah, it definitely feels like UEFA haven't done enough when it comes to the Rome situation in particular. One last question for you, because I know you're at the airport. What do you actually expect to happen on the field in the game tomorrow night, and how tempestuous will it get for Liverpool on the field?
Well, I think it's going to be, I think going there with that lead, I think it should be pretty standard. But you can never really trust Liverpool, as well as the playing. You never know what's going to happen. They sort of dance along the edge of this sort of emotional chasm, and it doesn't take much to push them into it. So I think it's going to be a tough game. But I think there's a good chance that I think they're going to go through, not quite with ease, but I don't think they'll suffer Barcelona's fate.
Tony Evans, great stuff. Enjoy the game. Thanks a million for joining us.
Thanks. Speak to you soon.
You should read that piece on ESPN about his experience in 1984.
I wasn't aware it stemmed back from that time. I really wasn't. I obviously knew the history of the playing, but in terms of that rivalry and needle, I wasn't aware it stemmed back that long.
Obviously the game was in Rome, and so it was all set up. Rome apparently bought the semi-final. There was a 3-0 win over Dundee in the semis, and they bribed the referee to the tune of like 300 or 400 grand. Eventually the number comes out years later. It's like, at the time, probably hundreds of millions of lira. And so they bought their way through to the final thinking this is all going to be great. And then Liverpool win on penalties. Because the story is told about how Liverpool psyched them out in the tunnel beforehand, when Suna starts to sing and they all start to use the studs on the concrete to make a certain noise. But they didn't psych them out to the point where they win the game easy. It goes to penalties.
Penalties, exactly. Yeah.
It's like a proper... it's ultimately incredibly close. And so, by all accounts, it had this shocking impact on Rome. We did a piece on it last week, and the Roma captain, there was a debate among the players about who was going to take penalties and who wasn't, and some of them didn't step up. And in the summer, that all kind of comes to the forefront and players leave. And 10 years later, on the anniversary, the captain dies by suicide. And apparently it's like a broken heart in the aftermath of that. So there's like this whole kind of this massive moment for Rome. They're never quite fulfilling their potential as a club because of this, all stemming from this. And the fans have obviously amped that up. But they also have a track record of violence across European competition. Yeah. I've never really heard of them being significantly punished for it.
No. It's hard. They should be doing more, UEFA, but how do you stop it happening half a mile from the ground in pubs, clubs, wherever, you can only do so much. And in this day and age, it's so easy to sort it out in terms of, you know, opposition hooligans and contacting each other and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
We meet here, we meet there, whatever. Like, we've all seen the films, and unfortunately, there's parts of those films that are absolutely true. They happen, I wouldn't say weekly, but they do happen, and especially when you come up against certain sides. And obviously with this tie, I don't relish him. I wouldn't like to be going to that game.
No, I'm definitely, like, Tony's a seasoned traveller, goes to all the away matches, and he's like, you can kind of see he's a bit, there's a little bit of
worried.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be much fun. Do you think it's going to be as easy for them, straightforward?
I don't think it'll be easy. I think score, draw, Roma maybe shading it. I just look at Roma defensively last week. If they play like that, Liverpool are going to lap it up. If they leave space in behind, and if they play a 3 at the back, I don't think Di Francesco will play a 3 at the back. I think they'll go back to a back 4.
Yeah.
Because it created that side where Jesus was up against Salah, in between him and Kolarov, was just an absolute dream for Liverpool, that space. But against Barca, they played it and they were unbelievable.
Who is going to replace Oxlade-Chamberlain?
Wijnaldum.
And that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's different.
He's a good player. I was going to say decent, but that's a little bit derogatory. He's a good player. I just think Oxlade-Chamberlain, I like the way he's gone about things. Not happy at Arsenal. Could have stayed in the comfort zone. Gets himself up. Doesn't get in the Liverpool team straight away. Has to work. Has to prove himself to Klopp. Wants to play central midfield, and it suits him in the way that Liverpool play with that 3 central midfielders. Not like a normal, like, you know, a 2 and a 1 or an out-and-out number 10. If he's got the licence to go with Henderson and Milner behind, certainly Henderson behind, I do think he was getting into a groove where he was getting to be very, very good.
Yeah.
Very effective. Big loss for Liverpool, big loss for England in the World Cup, the way Southgate wants to set up as well. But I think Wijnaldum will be absolutely fine. The worry is if anything happens to one of the front 3.
Yeah. I mean, they don't really have any ready-made replacements. They don't have any like-for-likes. They don't have anything they can kind of come in and go, oh, we're going to be grand.
Danny Ings, Solanke is just...
Not the same.
No, far from it.
Definitely isn't the same. So, I don't know. I can definitely see them conceding in the first 15 minutes, and then it's like, ooh, what's going to happen here?
I could also see, if Roma go too much at them having the ability to counter.
Pick them off.
Yeah, pick them off. And if they are too advanced, they play it too high of a line with that pace that they have in behind with Mane.
It's set up to be a brilliant game.
Should be, because I'm not sure whether you've seen the second leg of the Barcelona game.
I didn't.
In Rome. Atmosphere, Gerrard, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
It was a throwback.
Stars. Yeah.
With the huge flags.
And that's amazing, because it didn't look like they had any hope.
No.
Like they were just showing up to pay tribute to the team and say, oh, you've done well this season. Which is proper, like, for all the criticism they're getting for their hooligans, like, they're also proper supporters in the stadium. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. We've been up to the Green Glens of Antrim to speak with hurling legend Terence McNaughton. That full interview is coming a little bit later on in the show. But first, here's thoughts on Brexit.
Can I ask you a question about the possibility of Brexit and what it might do for people that are up in the north? Is that like something that you would be comfortable talking about or not?
Yeah, I don't mind Brexit. I think, we're going into political views now, and that's a different thing. But Brexit, I would never have voted for it. Well, I think it goes without saying I'm Irish, and I want to remain Irish, and I mind the days you had a queue for hours to get over the border, and that would be a disaster if that came back again. Not only for the business world, but for even the social world and the economies and the tourism and the GA, to travel back and forth. I remember sitting hours, boys, in traffic jams trying to get over that border, getting searched and silly things going on, and not there back in the days. I could stand here to cows come home, that tip runs out and tell you stories, but it'd be a disaster if there is a hard border.
Like the divides that were there back in the day will possibly never come back to that same level, but do you think it could lead to more divides?
Yeah, well, if you know your Irish history, whenever there's a void, it's like Irish men usually fill it. And that's my thing, you can say what you want, but you go down through all the generations, whenever there's this void and not there, and I know times have changed now, and social media and all that there, and it's a lot different. Like my children have a totally different upbringing from what I had growing up in the north, and the Troubles and playing in the Troubles was totally different. I said this many times, like if I walked about the street with a hurling stick, I was telling everybody what religion I was, who I voted for, what my beliefs were. If you walked down the street in Tipperary with a hurling stick, you were a hurler, full stop. Up here was different, and the families that were kind of middle of the road that didn't want their children walking about with GA jerseys or tops, or didn't want them involved because it labels you, and it still labels you. You know, where we're standing at the minute, it labels us.
Was it tough being a nationalist Republican growing up in the north? Because Cushendall would be a mainly Catholic area, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the whole Glens is a nationalist area, not there. It wasn't tough for me to say, because I lived in a rural part of the country and I didn't experience anything like the Derrys and the Belfast and that there, did not there, but you were always getting stopped and going to matches, and like the UDR broke my hurls more remarks than other. But there's nothing you can do, you just have to suck it and go on.
And do you think that
you'd be going to a match and that held you up, so the match would be late, you'd arrive late for the match, you know, things like that there, just petty stuff.
And do you think that it could ever go back to being as bad as it was?
I hope not, because, you know, I'd be scared that Void has filled the game when young nationalists running towards an armed struggle or something like that there. I would hate to see that day, but I don't think it will. I think society's changed too much to ever, like the old saying goes, I said, if we went into the trenches now, there need to be Wi-Fi coverage.
If we went into the trenches now, there'd need to be Wi-Fi coverage. What a killer line at the end of that. Yeah, brilliant stuff from Terence McNaughton. That whole interview is coming up a little bit later on. Yeah, so time for our breakfast menu this Tuesday morning. We've got a couple of topics here for you. At the bottom, Championship Champions Primed. That's about Wolves backing the underdog. That's about Leitrim / New York. Matters of principle, we'll talk about Chris Crummy, the Dublin hurling captain, talking about potentially going on strike. We'll play a video of that if strike gets called for the club players. But we're going to start with time to say goodbye, and this is about retirement. Obviously, it was a weekend of mass retirements in racing. You had Katie Walsh and Nina Carberry. We had in rugby, John Muldoon and a bunch of other players going as well. Was your decision to retire really straightforward in the end? It was like, I'm done, I've had enough? Or could you have eked out another season or two?
I could have easily probably done, you never quite know, I don't think, but I felt comfortably another year, probably two, without any significant injury. Where
was the last club you played for?
So I was at, I'll give you a brief one. I signed a 3-year deal at Bolton. 6 months into that deal, new manager came in, didn't see eye to eye. So the next season, because I was on a good contract at Bolton, I wasn't going to get that anywhere else. Came to some kind of resolution where I went on loan the following season to Brighton. Really liked my time there. Following season.
Who was at Brighton?
Who was the manager?
Yeah.
He's the Oscar Garcia. He's Barcelona B. Then he went to Red Bull Salzburg. I'm not quite sure where he is at the moment.
Right, okay.
Liked him, really liked him. He left, unfortunately, because I was going to go back there. He left. Sammy Hippier came in and basically didn't want to sign me, so that was that. I wanted his own players, so that was fine. Then the next year, went back to Bolton for pre-season, so I was a bit of a like, yeah, come back in, what's the crack, yeah, you're right. And then Watford came in. So Watford were a good squad, kind of challenge, so I was like, yeah, no-brainer, let's go to Watford on loan. So then they had 4 managers in 32 days. The last one was, he's the Fulham manager now, Slavisa Jokanovic, and had a row with him. Bearing in mind I'd been assured you can, the following season, player coach role, under 21s, we wanted to be the under 21s manager at Watford.
Right.
Got on quite well with the hierarchy there.
So
I was already thinking about coaching.
Who at the hierarchy are you dealing with, who's not the manager?
The owner.
All right.
The owner and the sporting director, so the Pozzo family, the sporting director.
So they're personally involved in the signing of you on loan, right?
Yeah, so the manager at Watford, even now, they don't have a say in who signs.
Okay.
So I signed under Beppe Sannino. He got the sack after about a month, 6 weeks. Then Oscar Garcia came in, who was my manager at Brighton.
You're like, happy days.
Exactly, happy days. Give me that armband, it was grand. And then Billy McKinley came in as his assistant. Oscar Garcia had a bit of a heart complaint, had to knock it on the head for medical reasons.
Balls.
Billy McKinley took over. He was in charge for 8 days. See you later, good luck. And here we go. So then
Jokanovic comes in at that point.
Yeah, Jokanovic comes in at that point, and then I'm playing regularly. Had an argument with him. I was on garden leave then for 2 months.
What about football?
Well, it was because I'd moved from Manchester down to Watford, season-long loan. I'm 33, I think I was at the time. I'd gone through all this managerial chain as a senior player in the dressing room. I'm kind of saying, look, let's just keep going. Look at the squad we've got. We've got a proper squad here. Let's not worry about that. Let's just keep things flowing and going. And so playing a senior role in the dressing room with the hierarchy and all the rest of it. I'm playing under Jokanovic, and then his way was on a Friday afternoon. Sorry, on a Friday when we were training, he would get somebody to put a squad up on the wall that was travelling. So we've all come back in from training. I looked at the squad because I'd played every game and I was involved. I'm not even travelling to this game. So I was like, grabbed that off the wall, went in to see him. He's outside having a smoke, had a bit of a ding dong, and then.
What did he say? Why you weren't travelling?
He just said, I can't even remember exactly what he said about not travelling. My issue wasn't the fact that I wasn't travelling.
He didn't come and talk to you.
Yeah, my issue was, look, I'm a senior player here. I'm playing all the time. Blah blah. Just show me a little bit of respect. You know, regardless of your decision, I might not like it, but at least I'll respect it. Just come and say it to me. But that obviously wasn't his way. Whether it is now, I don't know. He might have changed after the row we had. So we had our ding dong, and then
proper row, like screaming and.
Oh yeah.
And
proper.
People watching.
Yeah, like the owners and the people came out and all the rest.
Oh right.
So
okay. So there's no going back from that.
Full on, and then.
And what are you feeling after that? Are you feeling shit? I shouldn't have gone so far. You're like, yeah, I did the right thing.
No, I wasn't feeling that at all because I felt justified in terms of. I dealt with a lot of crap at that club in terms of trying to just ease things over because the bigger picture was I wanted another promotion on my CV, so I wanted to keep us up in contention, and because I did feel we had a few options where to go that summer, and that was like that excited me because they had proper players like even the strike force was Vidra, Troy Deeney, Igalo. Remember Igalo that season a few years ago, and Forestieri. So it was like. Goals on that team. We keep everything else sorted. They'll just shoot us into the Premier League. So no, I was fully justified, and then just got in my car, drove back home. I think I actually drove straight to Holyhead and came home for the weekend.
Right.
Long weekend.
And did the owners come and say, hey, the manager, we gotta,
There was a bit of radio silence at the time, and then we think it's best if you stay away for the time being.
Right.
I was thinking, fine, I'll stay away. I think that was late November. And then I was thinking, okay, this is going on now. Went in and met them. They obviously backing the manager because he's just in charge. And then they were trying to. So it was a horrible triangle then, really, because there was me, there was Bolton, and then there was Watford. So I'm still contracted to Bolton, but Watford are paying the percentage of the wages.
Okay.
So Bolton aren't going to relinquish anything of that.
Yeah.
And then in January, there was other teams coming in for me to try and break this loan deal and then take some of it on. But they weren't willing to pay what Watford were willing to pay. So then Bolton were saying, tough.
Yeah.
And in the meantime...
You're stuck.
I'm stuck. But then I was already concentrating on coaching. I'd done a bit of coaching at Watford. I'd been coaching in Brighton's academy and all the rest. And then MK Dons, I went in there and started doing a bit of training just to keep fit. And then they had offered me a role as a player coach with a coaching role at the end of it. And I wanted to do that. So they were obviously only willing to, or could only pay
a certain amount,
a fraction of what this deal was. So basically this was going on throughout January. I was in training undercover, like it was just mad. And then eventually on deadline day,
your Irish name, passport.
Andrew. Yeah. So we got there in the end on deadline day on the last day of January. But it was
that a full transfer from Bolton, or was that like a loan?
I was still a loan till the end of the season, and then that was it.
Right.
But so basically during that time,
you made the decision to stop playing.
So that was January. By March, I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
Because we had Noel Hunt on here a couple of weeks ago, and he was a player coach at Wigan. So I was talking to him and saying, how are you finding that balance? Because I couldn't do it.
You just knackered the whole time.
Just, you feel, like I felt like I couldn't commit to either fully. Like when you go coaching, I think it's just, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's 24/7. So I was ready for that. And by March, I didn't officially retire. Well, I didn't never officially retire, but I didn't until the following season. But by March, I played my last game, and then I wasn't on the bench again, and made the decision just to focus on, because we had a good team, we were going for promotion, the midfield was very good, it was Dele Alli, Darren Potter.
Not bad.
Exactly, and then ahead of that there was really good attacking players, so the midfield was sorted. Trying to sandwich me into that midfield, the balance of the team wasn't right anyway, so it was a bit unselfish in a way, because I could have played more games, but I was focused on the retirement and then on coaching, and then obviously the rest is history.
Yeah, and the decision not to keep coaching, was that easy enough to make?
That was a year at MK Don, so that following season had a full year. We'd got promotion, so we were in the championship. So I had really, like, in terms of the responsibility, I had considered it was my first full year coach, and it was like brilliant. I was in charge of all the attacking patterns and set pieces, different bits and bobs, full of every day with the first team. So I loved it. I loved the time on the grass. I loved the time with the players, improving the younger players, trying to improve them. Obviously, you can only improve players if they want to improve. But then at the end of that year, there was different things that were just grating on me that I didn't agree with in terms of how the club was run, certain factors in the club. And I just felt it was right that I looked elsewhere. So that's when I went and started to do a lot with the FAI and coaching the underage teams, and then I had a bit of a gap year. I said it to you before, I felt like a student. So I had a gap year where I started to do more media, because you're still seeing games and looking at games, and then keeping your eye in, and then went with the FAI, and then it kind of just went from that in terms of the media, and the balance of my life, where I've never had that, was just nicer. Family time. Moved back to Ireland, spent more time in Ireland first and foremost, then moved back. So it was just, it's not pulling on me as much as it was when I first had that little break.
It definitely feels like getting involved in coaching straight away is a nice way to kind of...
Bit of a segue.
Yeah, to decompress.
Yeah.
And then go, okay, I've tried that a little bit. Because I think Stephen Reid went straight into coaching and then took a while out and then went back in.
Yeah.
And that decision to go back in, and he's committed to it, and it looks like he's committed to it. And if you go back in, you'll clearly be committed to it. But at least you'll have gone, I've seen what real life is like.
Yeah, well, I think if I went retired, holiday, straight into media, I think there would be something in me that was saying, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to try it, you need to be a manager. Whereas now I'm quite happy, I've tried it. Obviously I haven't tried management, but I've sampled it, and I've sampled both of them.
Yeah.
And the balance at the moment, look, who knows? You never know what way it's going to go, and opportunities pop up or whatever, but I'm quite content.
Never say never. All right, topic number 2, matters of principle. This is the Dublin Hurling captain, Chris Crummey, saying that if the Club Players Association or a similar body decided to go on strike for club players, that he'd be on board. Have a look.
The only thing that unites every player at inter-county level is the fact that at one level, every one of them are club players. The Club Players Association, they're desperately trying to rectify issues surrounding the calendar. There's talk of maybe a strike. Could you see players backing that in solidarity? Would you strike in solidarity? Would you be part of that if that's the road they wanted to go down?
To be honest, if I'm a member of Club Players Association, and if the vote came that we had to strike, then I would. Like, I can see there's definitely a lot of issues that need to be ironed out. Within the club scene, the fixtures, absolutely, it's very hard. Like, if you look at Dublin, for example, it's been well documented that some clubs have been who are out after the 2 games and don't really have much to play for now for the rest of the year, which is, to be honest with you, only 2 league games played and 2 championship games. I don't think that's right, to be honest with you, and I think something needs to be done about that. I think the calendar year needs to be sorted and needs to be rearranged to give club players something to aim for within those summer months. So I promise I probably would, yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Very few people actually come out and said, yeah, I would strike for it. Did you ever go on strike with the PFA over anything?
We've had a couple of issues where bonuses at the start of a season. So basically, your bonuses are in place for this season, right? You come back for pre-season, and say, for instance, you've got a weaker squad than you did last year, investment's not there. You feel like that maybe they should be upped or incentivised more. So if you renegotiate, so you sit down, normally the players will kind of have a meeting, and they'll go, right, here's what we're going to pitch for. we'll go for XYZ. Then a committee or the captain and the vice captain would go and speak with the chief executive, the owner, sporting director, whatever the format is at that particular club. And if you cannot come up with some kind of solution, they revert back to last year's contract. So there's a bit of cat and mouse, there's a bit of toing and froing. And there's been a couple of times when players together have gone, look, this isn't acceptable. You know, we're not getting the commitment. We had at MK Dons a few years ago where I was in a very awkward position as the coach at this stage. Ooh. But the players knew my type of character in terms of I'm looking at these bonuses and I'm seeing them and I'm thinking they are shit because you're getting paid the lowest in the league and your bonuses are the lowest in the league. So it was like, but then I'm obviously stuck in the middle now where I've got players here, chief exec, owner, blah, blah, blah. So it's a bit of a balancing act. So it was like, so when I'm speaking to the players and going, look, you know what I'd do. Because I wouldn't have had it. I would have kicked down doors because it was embarrassing. Yeah. So there's been issues like where, not proper strike, but maybe refusing to do player appearances, refusing to go and do the bits and bobs in the with sponsors and, you know, that would affect the club and make the club look not great in the community and things like that. But never gone to
proper all-out strike.
Full-blown strike, yeah.
That is interesting. Okay, so our next topic here is backing the underdog. So if you don't know, the football championship starts at the weekend. It is starting in New York. Johnny Ward's going to be there to cash in on his bet. If you're a friendly immigration officer, it's okay, it's all legit, as he explained to us on the show yesterday. So New York against Leitrim. New York ordinarily would be 6 to 10 point underdogs. They're 1 point underdogs in this. This is one of the few occasions where Leitrim get to be favourites, and for a while there it looked like they weren't going to be favourites. Why do we love the underdog so much? What is it about the underdog struggles that we as Irish people like?
We've always been the underdogs, haven't we? It's exactly what it is. That's what it stems from. Like for me, it goes back to, and it was interesting seeing Ray Houghton. It's like Euro 88 was the first one that I would have watched, and that's the first one we could all watch. But in terms of the major tournaments, like bits of 86, but then obviously for us it was 88. And then going into that game as the underdogs, as the unfancy team, we see it year on year out, don't we, in terms of World Cups and FA Cup finals or whatever ties. It's, you want the romantic storyline, don't you?
Yeah.
I think that's what it stems from.
Like, and I think particularly in Ireland, like unless you're a Kerry football fan, then you haven't really had a lifetime of success. Or maybe if you're a Kilkenny hurling fan.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, they don't
Dublin
know.
football fans are starting to get a bit like blasé about the whole thing.
I'm not.
Here's Jamie Clark. That's the reason why. He's the one-man reason why. Will he rip it up against Leitrim? Yes, he will. By all accounts, he's gone pretty well in training. We hope to hear from Jamie Clark in advance of that game this weekend as well. Alan O'Mara is out there. Unfortunately, has done his cruciate, so won't be playing for New York. But we'll be talking to them a little bit later on this week. And so our final Tuesday morning breakfast menu, Championship Champions Primed. This is Wolves, your former club, linked with a 38 to /40 million move for Jack Butland in the summer. Going to be promoted with like all sorts of records. They're not bad, and they have the money, and they seem to have the right squad, and they've got a good progressive young manager.
Yeah, they've been one of the top 2 to 3 championship teams of all time, I think, considering it's been going we're about 15, 18 years, maybe something like that. The nucleus already of a very good side to go into the Premiership. Very good side.
The 20-year-old kid is supposed to be a superstar.
Ruben Neves. There's been a bit of controversy over the relationship of Jorge Mendes, the super agent, looks after Nuno Espirito Santo, the manager, and then the group that own Wolves. There's a bit of a link, shall we say.
Yeah.
But look, we've seen it before. Like I was at Watford before, and the clubs, the owner owns Granada, owns Udinese, so there's all that type of little merry-go-round. What Wolves have done, I've said to you before about Derby County, saying there's no guarantees just because you spend money that you're going to be successful. He's gone in there, he overhauled the squad, and he went from playing whatever system we were playing, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, 3-4-3 from day one in pre-season, got them clicking. Matt Doherty, Conor Cody, John Ruddy, Bennett. There's a nucleus of Irish, English core spine, and then he's added all this flair. And you've mentioned about Neves. Neves is the best player I've ever seen in the Championship, and he's 21 now. He's just gone 21. He is phenomenal.
Stick him on your fantasy team next year. That good?
Definitely.
Will he keep Doherty? The fact that he's interested in signing Butland, or the club is, or whoever is interested in signing Butland, however that whole relationship actually works, it suggests that players like Doherty have a chance of being part of the squad and part of the team next year, as opposed to, we're not going to sell many Matt Doherty bedspreads.
No, look, I think they're in a different position than, say, last year when Newcastle, Huddersfield and Brighton went up, where they kept the nucleus of their team. They're in a position where if they wanted to, I think financially they could rip it up and go again. But I think Matt Doherty and Douglas, they've been the two best. They play wing backs, so they're like wingers really. Defensively, they'll need to be a lot better next season, because they do play like a back three at times next year. If he wants to play that system, it's going to be a back five, and you're going to have to do a lot more defending, obviously. But can Matt Doherty play in the Premier League for Wolves next year? Absolutely. Will there be additions that might threaten his place? Yeah, because it's the only position that they've been a little bit vulnerable in this year. They've had adequate replacements everywhere else apart from those wing back positions.
How soon does Doherty get into the Ireland team, or does he?
Seamus Coleman.
Can we play that way? Can we play like a...
I don't know. I feel for him, because Seamus is our best player. It's as simple as that. And then Matt Doherty can't
be a Dennis Irwin also.
Well, he played last season at left back in a back four, and was more than comfortable coming in on his right foot a la Dennis Irwin. So he has got versatility. But it's going to be difficult. He's probably just got ahead of Cyrus Christie on form. Well, on form, he's by far ahead of Cyrus Christie in terms of club form, because Cyrus has had a quiet season at Middlesbrough and Fulham behind Ryan Fredericks, the right back who's played very well at Fulham. But I think next season Cyrus will kick on, because Ryan Fredericks is out of contract in the summer. So I think he was a purchase for ongoing, not just for this season. But Matt Doherty's had a great season.
Okay. All right, you haven't heard this yet, but it's been everywhere, literally everywhere. Sports Illustrated picked up on this. It's Jamie Moore chatting to the Cabinteely manager Eddie Gormley about the lights going out from the First Division game between Cabinteely and Athlone Town on Saturday night. Have a look.
Eddie, what's your understanding of why the game is being called off tonight?
The lights weren't working.
Any idea why?
Not an electrician, Jamie. Don't know.
We've heard that it's possible that the generator wasn't working.
Like I said, I'm focused on the game. I don't know what's going on. All I'm told is the lights aren't working, so the game was called. So that's it. I mean, the game itself, we might as well talk about that, because I was more interested in what was going on the pitch.
If we can stick on the lights for now, because it's clearly another negative news story involving the league and the First Division club. The lights did come on in the second half and went off again.
Listen, Jamie, I'm a football manager. I'm not an electrician. You want to talk about the lights? Go and talk to somebody that knows something about generators. I don't know anything about generators. Speak to me about the match. I'm not speaking to you about the lights. There's nothing to do with me.
So I asked to speak to somebody from Cabinteely about the lights, and I was told that you were the person I was going to speak to about it, so I'm entitled to ask the question.
Hang on, Jamie. You can ask me about the match, because I'm here and in football capacity. Not about a set of lights that I know nothing about. I'm not an electrician. Don't ask me to change a bulb, because I wouldn't be too clever at changing a bulb either. If you want to talk about the football match, I'll talk about the football match. I don't know why generators blow or don't blow. Nothing to do with me.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting it is, but as the Cabinteely manager on the night, are you disappointed that the game has been abandoned because the lights didn't work?
I'm disappointed. We're 1-0 up. We're 1-0 up, and the game gets abandoned. In an ideal world, the lights stay on, we finish the game out, and hopefully we see it out. And that's everybody's happy.
In an ideal world, obviously. Here's the tweet from Sports Illustrated. Fed up Irish soccer manager repeatedly insists I'm not an electrician. Now, what we didn't show you was that Sports Illustrated had to subtitle the video, because they weren't sure that everybody would understand what either Eddie or Jamie, but I suspect more Eddie, was actually saying. So, not a great look for the league.
So the sparks must be in bits at Eddie's house.
Oh God, I didn't ask you what you think of Brexit. We didn't get there with off the back of what Sambo was saying.
What do I think of it?
Yeah.
Well, from a personal point of view, I don't want hard borders, obviously, because I'm to and fro every weekend, so I could do without
passport checks.
Could do without that. It's already testing at times, depending on the times you come in and out. So yeah, that would be something I could really do without.
Yeah, it makes no sense at all. Okay, so earlier on we did bring you that full clip of, our little clip of Terence McNaughton speaking about Brexit, but here's his full chat with Shane Stapleton. Enjoy.
Sambo, how much do you miss hurling?
playing the game, you always miss it. You always miss it. Like it's something I don't think it ever leaves you. Like you know the old saying, when you smell cut grass, you can still think you can play, and that always leaves you. I always wish that a passion for golf where you could play till you were 90 or something. No, I love playing it. Nothing takes that place. Like,
was it a difficult decision for you to even retire?
No. My body was letting me on. No, under no solution. It's time to pack it in, big lad.
What was it for a finish that did you?
Because my mind was telling me to get out to the 45, and my body was saying I'm not going. So,
what age did you start hurling?
I started playing inter-county senior hurling at 16, but I started 8, 9, 10, the same as everybody else around the country.
So 16 years of age, that must, like, you were very young.
Yeah, 16. I was very young. We won our first county title that year, and when every guy, the whole town went mad because that was our first ever county title. I always mind they all went to the pub and I had to go home because I had school the next day. You know.
And you kept playing inter-county until what age?
About 34 I quit playing inter-county, but I quit playing at 37 for the club. Like.
So more than half your life you spent playing inter-county by the time you left the Antrim shirt?
I think it was 18 years or something I played on them.
And the best days of your life?
Yeah, well, there's memories there that I'll never forget and nobody will ever replace. It's trotting up and down all over, and long before there was the M1 or the motorways or that there, were going to Dublin was a 6-hour jaunt. Like.
What sticks out when you think of those Antrim days?
I suppose we used to play Galway in the corner, and I played against boys like John Connolly and Joe Connolly and that good Galway team that was about, and then the Offaly teams and that there. And obviously, my first year, I made a debut against Kildare because a guy got injured in the warm-up. Terence McNaughton got injured, and I came on then against Kildare and played well and held my place and was more or less there ever since, or for the time and out there. But I loved hurling. I was passionate about it. It was probably the only thing I was ever really good at, you know. Like, I wasn't that academic. I had a bad speech impediment when I was young, and very much the only place poked the ball against the wall on my own. And whenever the big boys of the local estate were picking team, you know, they wanted me in their team, so that gave you that wee bit of confidence and made you feel good, you know. And I can diss it back to them, like, you know.
So just to focus on that speech impediment for a second, is that something that you had just from when you started talking, or something that developed?
No, it developed in probably P2 or primary 2.
What age would that be for?
6, 7 and that there, and I was very, very bad. Like, for years and years I was very bad. Up until even when I was playing in county hurling I was bad. Like, but over the years I grew out of, like, I went to speech impediment, acupuncture and different classes to line. Like, I had a very bad speech impediment, and I had always a soft spot for anybody now that has one. Like, there's a young boy in my own club has it now, and he would get special attention more, like, you know. Yeah, and that's probably why I was handy enough at hurling, because I spent that much time hitting the ball against the wall. Like.
And was it a confidence issue that you think?
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. And confidence as a kid, like, you can't talk, and your mates in class, and kids are kids, like, you know, they're not far, but giving you nicknames and slagging you or something like that there, but you shouldn't learn to fight your way out of these things.
Because you wouldn't think from talking to you now that there's any confidence issue, so you got past it.
No, totally different. Like, I was, like, if you had seen me at 14, 15, 16, I wouldn't have spoke. Like, even things people asked you at the time, you walk on, wouldn't answer them, and like, even going into a shop, you couldn't go into a shop and buy sweets. Like, you know, like, it's amazing the things that, looking back on it, that you couldn't do, that everybody takes for granted, like, you know.
Was that excruciating, like, not being able to go into a shop just to buy something?
Like, even when we got our first phone, I would never answer the phone, like, you know, the phone was just, like, alienated, you know. For years and years I never spoke on a phone, like, I don't know what, just the phone just was foreign territory. If somebody rang, I could ring all day, I wouldn't been answering it, that sort of thing.
And what would be going on in your head when you hear that
fear,
phone?
like, because there's no point answering it, because you weren't going to be able to talk, and then going to people's houses and standing at doors asking for your mates, and them getting fed up listening to you and closing the door and walking away, and you standing there, all them sort of things, you know. Looking back on it, like, people don't, I don't mean this to be sound like a preach for, you know, for somebody with speech impediment, but it's a funny world what you live in, like, and you're very much your own person, like, you know.
It's quite a difference to, like, this evening you're going to take a training session for the Antrim senior county hurling team.
Yeah, but I feel at home here, I feel confident.
I'm guessing that your favourite day in an Antrim shirt was the All-Ireland semi-final in '89, beating Offaly.
Yeah, that was a great day, but looking back on it, was a day that we probably lost the final too, because we were happy just to get the final. Looking back on it, everybody, the great words that you've gone over this a few times. Everybody say, no matter what happens, it's great just to get there. And psychologically, that was preparing for defeat. We weren't interested in the match in the final. Back in the day, we get free boots, which was the talk of the county, and things like that there, which is laughable now, but that was the case. But it was a brilliant day, and it was a great bunch of fellas to be involved with, great players.
And it was Tipperary lost in the final. I think it was more or less double scores, really.
Yeah, it was double score. I think we scored 3-11 or something. Nicholas English scored 18 that day himself. But they were, Tipperary was coming 19 years without an All-Ireland or something, I think, if I'm right. Not there, so they were hungry.
Yeah.
Babs' start,
And did you feel like that being the high point? Are there any other kind of?
91 was the year I thought we could have won it. 91 year was the only time I thought if we had to go back. Kilkenny beat us by a point in the semi-final, and we were a different animal then, and a few players got injured before that, but it was all about the game then. We weren't worried about the hype or anything like that. We were used to it then. But in '89, nobody knew what it was like to be in an All-Ireland final. The one before that was 1943. The North Antrim men, they were racing. They went to Belfast to train for 2 weeks before it, and they were only brown breads and eggs. That's the stories you were told, because it was during the war. There was racing, so we had nothing to compare it to, and nobody in the county knew how to prepare and that there. And God rest Jim Nelson was probably ahead of his time, but even Jim was unexperienced at what to do for an All-Ireland. We got a bit carried away with the whole thing.
And do you think those days can ever come back? Now, I know you were automatically into a semi-final if you won Ulster back then. Can you ever see Antrim back playing a big championship game in Croke Park?
Yeah, I think you can't stop believing. When you're loving something, you want to see it cherries and that there. And, I think Antrim Hurling can come back. I think if the right structures are in place, why not? What makes somebody born in Limerick or Clare or thing better? Are they eat better? Are they bigger? Are they stronger? They use different gyms. We all know what to do now. There's no secrets out there. Everybody knows it was S and C and what diets to do and out there. And the one thing we have just maybe lack a wee bit of quality about cuteness on the ball and different things, but that comes with playing at a higher level for a longer period. And if we can get up and stay up and get a momentum going out there, why not? I don't think there's this massive gap that everybody thinks there are. You can't compare yourself to the likes of Kilkenny or Tip or Cork, because they have such a base to pick from. It's unfair. It's Shamrock Rovers against Barcelona sort of thing. It's staff to compare it at times.
And geographical location, really, you're cut off from the rest of the hurling population.
Yeah, that's no doubt hard, but it's made easier now with the motorways and that there. It's a lot easier to get to Dublin for a game now, and Abbottstown's available and all these different things. And the one thing I would like to see GA do is maybe the Tips and the Corks and the things of this world make themselves more available to players all the time and out there, because we need that quality. I know that if Antrim played Tip now, it'd be a waste of time, but I'm talking maybe Tip and work B team or something, to work your way up and play challenge matches, because the more you play at that higher level, the more you expose yourself to that class of player, the better you become. You can't become that class of player by sitting in a gym or that there. You need to expose yourself to it.
Can I ask you a question about the possibility of Brexit and what it might do for people that are up in the north? Is that something that you would be comfortable talking about or not?
Yeah, I don't mind Brexit. I think we're going into political views now, and that's a different thing. But Brexit, I would never have voted for it. Well, I think it goes without saying I'm Irish, and I want to remain Irish, and I mind the days you had a queue for hours to get over the border, and that would be a disaster if that came back again. Not only for the business world, but for even the social world and the economies and the tourism and the GA, to travel back and forth. I remember sitting hours, boys, in traffic jams trying to get over that border, getting searched and silly things going on and not there back in the days. I could stand here to cows come home, that Tip runs out and tell you stories, but it'd be a disaster if there is a hard border.
The divides that were there back in the day will possibly never come back to that same level, but do you think it could lead to more divides? Yeah,
well, if you know your Irish history, whenever there's a void, it's Irish men usually fill it. And that's my thing, you can say what you want, but you go down through all the generations, whenever there's this void and not there, and I know times have changed now, and social media and all that there, and it's a lot different. Like my children have a totally different upbringing from what I had growing up in the north, and the Troubles and playing in the Troubles was totally different. I said this many times, like if I walked about the street with a hurling stick, I was telling everybody what religion I was, who I voted for, what my beliefs were. If you walked down the street in Tipperary with a hurling stick, you were a hurler, full stop. Up here was different, and the families that were kind of middle of the road that didn't want their children walking about with GA jerseys or tops, or didn't want them involved because it labels you, and it still labels you. You know, where we're standing at the minute, it labels us.
Was it tough being a nationalist Republican growing up in the north? Because Cushendall would be a mainly Catholic area, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the whole Glens is a nationalist area, not there. It wasn't tough for me to say, because I lived in a rural part of the country, and I didn't experience anything like the Derrys and the Belfast and that there, but you were always getting stopped and going to matches, and like the UDR broke my hurls more remarks than other. But there's nothing you can do, you just have to suck it and go on.
And do you think that
you'd be going to a match and that held you up, so the match would be late, you'd arrive late for the match, you know, things like that there, just petty stuff.
And do you think that it could ever go back to being as bad as it was?
I hope not, because, you know, I'd be scared that the void has filled the game when young nationalists running towards armed struggle or something like that there. I would hate to see that day, but I don't think it will. I think society's changed too much to ever, like the old saying goes, they said if we went into the trenches now, there need to be Wi-Fi coverage.
Yeah, great line there from Terence McNaughton at the end, the legendary Antrim hurler. Just as a random aside, Keith, what do you make of the quality of finishing in Gaelic football?
Stop trying to get me in trouble. I don't know what you're talking about. Can we not have conversations off camera in this place?
We can. Tommy just wants me to bring it up because we hope we're gonna have Mossy, your former classmate.
Former classmate, yeah. Mossy Quinn. He scored a good goal the weekend, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Didn't celebrate though. No hint of celebration. It was very early on in the match, so maybe that was it. But I thought maybe
he is a good finisher.
He might be too old to celebrate. Do you reach a point in your career where you're like,
You could do it kind of.
There's lads on that team
conservative one.
Actually young enough now to be his son.
Yeah, but the finishing isn't good enough in Chihia though.
Why not?
Well, they don't shoot enough. Fact.
For goals.
For goals, yeah. They get into good areas, and then when they do get into good areas, because I've been watching a lot more closely since I've been back home over the last year, it frustrates me because I think they're good enough, whether they're not encouraged to do it, whether they don't practice it enough in terms of training, but I do think the level of finishing is poor.
Have you not heard the take your points and the goals will come?
Yes, I have heard that, yeah.
It turns out it's bollocks.
Yeah, I don't know, I just think it could be better. Who's that fella Tommy was showing me?
Michael Quinlivan.
Tip. Yeah, he's good.
He is good.
He's very good.
He was sitting there last week and he was like, I don't know why everybody kicks points all the time. He was like, you're through on goal, why don't you try and score a goal?
Yeah.
Which is pretty much exactly what you were saying. Definitely one of the best finishers in the country at the minute. But Mossy's goal at the weekend for Vincent's wasn't bad either.
It was nice, wasn't it?
And Vardy scored one a minute later actually, which was a roofer. So
was it?
Yeah, 2 good goals in a minute just to...
Mossy had a bit of guile, didn't it?
Yeah.
You could see exactly what he was trying to do. It wasn't like hitting hope and laces and whatever. It was proper placement, corner, precision.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good stuff, thanks very much.
Cheers, pal, enjoyed it.
Yeah. Later on today, Off the Ball Team 33 are going to broadcast an exclusive interview with former Rwandan international footballer and genocide survivor Eric Eugene Murangwa. Here's a quick preview.
They just came into the house and they asked us to lay down on the floor, and they went all around the house, throwing things up and down, shouting, kicking us, telling us that we pay a big price for having killed the president, and it was a horrific experience to go through. We really thought they will kill us. They will kill us, and luckily enough, when they were throwing things up and down, one of the things that they threw in air and landed on the ground wide open was an album full of my football team photos. And the photos caught the attention of one of the soldiers. He picked the album and looked at the photos closely, and then he came to, realize that the person who he was almost about to kill, who he has spent the last 10 minutes accusing to be a threat, was actually someone who he has been a great supporter for some time. So he just turned to me and said, "Are you Toto?" Toto was my nickname by the time that I was given by my football club fans. And I said, "Yes, I am." And he had then asked me to get up and sit on the sofa, and he asked his colleagues to step out of the room. And for the next 10-15 minutes, we sat on the sofa and we were talking about the Al Hilal game. He just wanted to have a chat with me about how the game went. He was telling me how proud and really happy he was when we eliminated Al Hilal, and it was one of those moments where you just don't know what's going on.
It's a unique moment, actually, when you kind of think about it. Just those few minutes and how it just shifts so quickly.
Yeah,
the intentions and that. Yeah.
It was a surely a moment. So you in 1 minute you could see that you were that close to death, and then the next minute you see you sitting with a man who had your life in his hand, and is telling you how much he had admired you. So it was weird.
OTB AM.
In association with Air. Get Air Sport free with Air Broadband.